Hello everyone, happy Tuesday. Today's going to be a slightly different video for the channel, but it's basically going back to why I actually started it. Because the reason, in case you missed it, was actually that I started taking BA427 at Southern Oregon University. I'm just about graduated, and so this is one of those classes that you take between, being a student and then eventually doing your business plan, which I had an inkling when I started school, kind of. It basically came from the fact that I was going back to school and I had already started, I came back to school with some help from family, but also because I sold, practically the last of my Pokemon stuff that I had gathered up to that point. Like, all my PSA cards, all of my individual cards that were really good. Like, I had a shiny Mewtwo, I had a shiny Charizard, I had a Gold Star Kyogre, a lot of other. I know there were some crystal cards too. Like, I had some reverse holos of those, but I ended up selling everything just so I could pay the school, so I could get back, to it, because I thought my only course of action to move forward was to go back to school and explore this thing called accounting, which honestly I just heard in high school. Like, you did the practice tax thingamabobbers, and apparently I was really good at it, and I was really good at catching details and stuff like that. Funny story, I actually thought that accountants solely worked at the back of the banks and maybe H&R Block. Turns out I'm wrong. Turns out there's actually many places where accountants can work, whether it's in auditing, compliance, or right now I'm working in industry accounting, which is actually like financial accounting within a large company, and we get to record things. Like, I focus in acquisitions and divestitures, as well as making certain analytics for the company that then end up going into the financial statements, and lots of crazy stuff. But it really just started by coming back to school and doing this entire thing. And so I take my first class. So this is gonna be mostly a story time. So if you want to hear the story, here's the story. But I started off with one of the Excel courses, and I was one of those people that were totally scared of anything having to do with anything harder than PowerPoint, because I don't know, my techie skills were very limited in my opinion. It was I know a computer is good so I could watch YouTube, and so I could maybe be a part of a Discord server, and it's there for convenience, not to do things. And the people who knew how to do things were the really smart people, and I didn't think of myself as smart. I thought of myself as, I'm the average person who can play with this thing, but I don't really like learning it. Is weird. But I took my first Excel course, and one of the things that was prompted to us to do in our freshman year was to start thinking about your business plan, because your business plan would be something that you would end up working randomly through these different classes. Sometimes it would be involved, sometimes less so. In all of my accounting classes, practically zip is just accounting, and it was a whole bunch of different types of accounting, which honestly right now I'm looking back and wondering how I even made it through it, but I have. And so I think the last one's cost accounting, and that will be a beast for next term. But for now, I'm simply here as someone who, in her first Excel course, was dealt with the next class, which was advanced Microsoft applications, and we made a presentation, and you had to do an extensive research on what potentially would be your plan and what it could potentially look like, and the general ins and outs of it, what would be your costs, what makes that realm special. And because I sold all this stuff, I thought, what if in some weird world I could open up a store? Maybe, right? It's an idea that just lives in your head sometimes, and it's because if I collect Pokemon stuff right now, granted, that's not a store, that's more this is my hobby, And for a while, like being an accounting major, you also talk to your advisor about this stuff because they indulge you in all your dreams, or at least mine did. But she said, yeah, you could potentially do that, but as of right now, as things stand, you spend money, right? I'm spending money. I'm like, ooh, let's buy this particular set, and let's buy a pack of this, and an Elite Trainer box of that, and all of these other side items that are randomly in the store. Well, I did that. And so it wasn't really generating a, cash flow thing. It was more just like, you spent the money, you have the cards, and now I have a collection. Like, it was starting over. And so at the time, I was like starting to collect like individual packs. It was 2018, so I know that it was a time when I was just like collecting the small stuff. On my crazy 2018, I think, time, that December, first year of school, I bought those Lucario GX boxes only because, I forgot what was happening. I think Hidden Fates was going to start coming out, and so, like, Pokemon, I feel like, was having a boom at the time, where things were starting to get popular, but people didn't really know where to look for the random tidbits that had, like, cool things. And so I noticed within the Pokemon Center, it was before they even added that whole available, not in stock type thing across the image on Pokemon Center, but I was able to explore for the oldest boxes, and these Lucario GX ones were, like, in the list of those. And when you saw the picture, it had, like, a Crimson Invasion, it had... Am I blanking? I think I am. I have it written down somewhere. But these ended up coming with Ancient Origins. I think Ancient Origins, Ultra Prism... Not Evolutions. I know the Kangaskhan random box that I got from GameStop did come with Unbroken Bonds, though. But the point is that, slowly, as I start accumulating these Pokemon boxes, and I start being like, ooh, I could make this into a forecasting sheet where I'm like putting, okay, boxes, so the box name where it's like Lucario GX collector box, and then you have, at this point, Hidden Fates Elite Trainer box, Hidden Fates Charizard tin box, Hidden Fates Raichu tin box, Hidden Fates Ultra Premium Collection. And so you have this entire list, and you're making it in Excel at this point because I've learned Excel. And so honestly, like, if you're trying to get into this, business school is honestly not a bad option, especially if you go into accounting, or if you go into a field where you can work within operations, or anything like that. It's really useful because this stuff isn't like you learn it and then it's like generic. Not to be mean to the marketing people, but like there's an oversaturation of marketers compared to accountants. And so you want to go for, or at least I'm practical enough that I also knew that, hey, the world needs accountants, and also there aren't that many, and also they earn medium to good money. So it just seemed to all click into place, like, ooh, this all works. Little did I know is that throughout that entire path, being influenced to do that first project, it was like, maybe I could make a store. And at first it was like Super Minance Card Shop. That was like my first name that I thought of, and only because, one, that was like my gamer tag, and two, it was like, I don't know, it was just a thing. It was just like very basic. It was very, at the time I knew that, you would have inventory, you would have certain costs like paying rent and paying for the actual cards, and everything else maybe a little extra. You don't consider anything else at the beginning. But then it keeps developing, because you start to learn these accounting terms, and you start to realize, oh, there are costs to things deeper than just like the actual cost of the card itself or the pack itself, because it's like, you might have this cool little pack of Guardians Rising, and that's great, but did you buy it on a credit card? You did. Cool. Then how much interest are you paying additionally for this one pack if you're not paying it off like upfront in cash? Because then it's like, it's the cost of the pack itself. So say I got that for $250, and then I'm paying a credit card bill. There's going to be interest fees that you take into account there. Additionally, when you are shipping it in the future, what are you going to be using, is the cost of the envelopes and the whatever packing materials that you're going to use material enough that you want to include it in your like expenses. Like I'm gonna have to make financials now, and so I'll explore that as we keep going. But so many different things that you start taking into account, because you have to like kind of keep your business relevant. You have to make sure that you're making the best decisions, not only for the business itself, but to also provide people with a positive experience, because you also don't want to go bare bones and treat your customer like, yeah, I just packed you this pack and, you know, I just threw it in the padded envelope. Good luck. Hopefully it didn't get bent on the way. That's not how you maintain a positive customer relationship sort of thing going. And so fast forward a bit, we get to the point where I'm taking a GIS class, and I forgot what it was something information systems, and I promise you it was actually a very interesting class. One of my favorites actually, and the teacher that teaches it in Southern Oregon, A+, really good. But he taught us how to use like Tableau and GIS as an entire thing where you were able to figure out your market. And so this is where I started thinking about the larger aspects of a card shop potentially, like who is actually coming, because in my mind I thought, well, you know, the Pokemon players and the Magic players and I guess nerds, right? Because that's who buys this stuff. And kids must also be a part of that equation. Well, later on, as you're actually doing research and you figure out what a target market is and how things work, children can't spend money, or at least not enough money to actually keep your business going. And so, but you know who can? Parents of said children. And then you figure out how you get the specific type of parents that you want, because you want parents who have discretionary income. But at the same time, my concept that I started to try and think about was, yes, there is a designated market here where it's like these people, and I ended up making like a table where it's like, okay, well, first of all, I want to know households that have children that are between the ages of like 6 years old to say, I think I settled on 9, but you could even expand it to like 12 or so on. But you know, like those high school years are kind of where card games start to like drift off, and yeah, they're cool right now a little bit, but it's hard to retain that sort of interest in kids of an older age, and therefore the costs that they're incurring, like, you know, it's probably going into sports, it's probably going into like buying clothes, or I don't know, that's not my wheelhouse. But within my wheelhouse I started to figure out, okay, well, the parents of children who are between the ages of 6 to 12, who have discretionary income of say like $30,000, and I want to know what the range also is between like single, married, and divorced parents. Who is doing this? What are they doing? And you start digging in further, and you start digging in further. And within GIS, you're also able, and also why going to school is a really good thing. And granted, if whether or not you choose to go to school, because I've also met like tradespeople super successful, you do what you do. But this is just like my path, what worked for me, what's working for me, and how I'm getting to this point. And I'll be making like a series as we go along, as I get more and more definition to this plan, because at some point I will be presenting this plan in front of, you know, the board of people who decide whether or not they graduate. So getting up, and I'll have to stop saying but I'll have to start getting a full idea of how it is that I want to present this entire business. But right now it's just like kind of the story of how we got to the point that we're at. So anyway, so you start figuring out that target market, and then it's like you make pretty maps, and I even decided in that one class, like, I love the professor, but at the same time, this is one of the parts where I was like, you know what, maybe this isn't gonna work, maybe this just is what it is, and you move on, because sometimes dreams don't work out. I know it was slightly pessimistic, but what I did figure out from that class at the very end when I made my presentation was that a brick and mortar store could not really exist in Southern Oregon that would turn a profit solely on brick and mortar sales. And that is due to a couple different things. Like I had taken into account in this GIS course at least, like the cost of a security system, the cost of renovations, the cost of rent and taxes related to that. I also took into account potentially the market that was in place, which the market in place, while good within the area, like he wanted us to be well defined in this specific circle, right? And so you're thinking a circle of about, like, to me, Pokemon players are one of the types of players that will literally travel from one side of the country to the next because there's literally a regional and you are short those 50 points, I think is what the max, no, 500, I can't remember, but you know, for those points you're willing to travel quite a ways. Heck, even my players here in Southern Oregon, like we have the Pokemon League in Medford, we have the Pokemon League in Klamath Falls, cool beans, but that means that you're only able to get those league challenge points twice, I think, in a quarter. So 30, 30, you know, 60 for both of them, and then if you get 50 and 50, so you get 160 if you manage to get, you know, first place in everything. Cool, you get 160 in a localized area, but Klamath Falls is about 45 minutes away. What are you gonna do for the rest of them? You have to travel to Portland, you have to travel to Salem, or you have to travel south and you go to Eureka, or I forgot what the other cities and towns were there, but you had, and Reading, I think. But you have to travel and you have to be willing to do that because you want to do the actual competing. And so while these customers might not be localized to your area, it does promote a level of companionship with other stores because you start, you know, intermingling, and you know to send, like, these league leaders, if, in my mind, if things are done well, you make partnerships with, like, all types of leagues. Like, I knew to send my players to Klamath Falls, I knew to send my players to Wild Things and Games in Salem, to Garden Games in Portland, I think. There's another league in Wilsonville, but we knew where to send them. We knew where to lead them, at least, where it was like, hey, yeah, you know, this league over there, really nice store. And then when you're there as a player, you're not just playing because you're like, yeah, I'm excited, and so you're paying, you know, the league leader. Most of the time, those are the store owners. Say your $10, $15 entry, depending on what type of event it is. And that will cover costs for the packs as well as for anything additional, like, you know, for being there for that level of time. And sorry, but yeah, and so these players not only will do that, but they'll be hungry, and so if you have snacks, they will buy your snacks, they will buy your packs, they will enjoy the experience of being there. And that's something that comes with, you know, promoting yourself in such a way that's friendly enough, that's open enough to make sure that this continues to happen as you move forward. And so where was I? Yeah, so you're taking all these costs into account. You also, in this class, I was very limited. Like, my online sales potentially weren't even included because they couldn't be included. We're just talking in the local area, is the store sustainable? And while it was a good premise, say for a food truck or a dog groomer, it wasn't what was fair to me as a potential card store, because at this point, you know what, it's like 2020 or 2021, and I've already learned that, guess what, you can have a store and have the same store online because there are different venues, because you have TCG Player, because you have eBay, because you have whatnot now. You have so many options. Sorry, I was reading something. Spaced out. But the point is that you have so many options to expand your business, and if you're not taking advantage of that, that's really on you as the store retailer, as the person that you are, because you're not taking advantage of your full range of, like, movement as a business. Because Pokemon and Magic and things like that, we're not static. We're not something that has to happen in the local area. In the local area, what should be encouraged is the love, it's the care, it's the one-to-one experience that you can have with someone else, and encourage them to continue coming to the store, because that's how you grow a community. and that's the one thing that I focused on being the league leader here in Medford, Oregon. It wasn't about like picking the best players. It wasn't about being friends with only super competitive people. It was about being friends with the little kids that came in. It was about encouraging them to grow. It was about making sure that they didn't just feel like they could grow, but the fact that they wanted to keep growing with you. They wanted to keep growing in an area that made them feel safe, even if they were the only child there to begin with. It allowed them to feel like they could continue coming back, and then, another parent would show up with their kid, and now you have two. And now you have a group of two that then another one comes in, and, all of a sudden these kids that have never known each other, that might be, maybe different ranges of ages too, because, some of them were 9, some of them were 6, some of them were like already teenagers, but they grew together. And you created a community, you create a sense of like being that creates, like, yeah, in business terms, it creates long-term revenue. It creates that loyalty that then is like, yeah, I'm gonna go to such and such store every weekend, because that's where, my kid has grown up and played Pokemon and made friends. And so when that parent then, and I feel like this is more so in the community-driven style, but parents will suggest to other parents to go to the store that they're used to going, to go to the store that makes them feel welcome, that makes them feel like it's another place outside of home that you can go to and be happy. That is my goal. That was my goal as a Pokemon professor. That was my goal, looking forward to my potentially far off into the realm of my imagination business. And so going back to target market, you did learn this. And so technically, yeah, in Southern Oregon, maybe you can't supply that. The towns aren't really growing at a rate of speed that would continue to give you a level of business that's like good enough to keep you going. Second, the income level within the valley and surrounding areas is actually relatively low. Your highest earning markets are within Jacksonville and Ashland, and certain people in Medford, but in different areas. And so you had to consider all of these things. And so technically, quote unquote, my dream kind of went down the toilet with the fact of, no, relationally, you can't do this in a brick and mortar. It's just gonna fail. You're gonna lose out on money, and that sucks. I put the sad Pikachu and the surprised Pikachu face because it was kind of like, oh, my dreams. So, but you move forward. And now, or there was another class that I ended up taking, which was like a business operations. This is when we start talking about like break even and making actual solid reports, where like this teacher, amazing, also amazing. I've had almost nothing but amazing teachers, luckily, here at Southern Oregon. They're all supportive, they're all happy to see you, and they all want to see you succeed. Whether or not you do that, kind of on you, but also they're more than willing to help, and they make it very clear that they're there to do so. So, what ends up happening is that I have to fix something there. But in this class, I ended up like writing out the actual inventory, and luckily I had shown this teacher like, hey, I've actually been writing all my inventory, and I have the costs, and I have the quantity, and I have like the forecast so far of like the most current, up to date, like as of from this point to this point in time, how much it's currently selling at. On average. This was prior also to TCG Player putting in that like stock market chart, trending line. And so I was pulling my prices from eBay, and I was pulling the 5 most recently sold within a week, because if it was prior to that, then technically the prices from say February aren't really as relevant to what's selling in August if something has changed or fluctuated within the market, because you can't be looking at that due to the time value of money, different other financial wordage that just gets thrown in there, because you learn these terms and you start to learn like, hey, I should take this into consideration. I should be using the most like material data that I have to my disposal, and I did. And it was like a 9-page forecasting analysis, as well as like how much profit would be earned, how much where my like level of what is acceptable to me would be to sell a specific item, which then I started to later on accept that maybe you don't know that. Like, really, you might not actually know what the appropriate level to sell a specific kind of item is, because if you don't need the money, what is the point? If you want to cash out, that's good, and that's fine, because just like with stocks, you know, say you earned your 20% on something that you thought you were only going to make, say, 7% within the year. Wow, you did a spectacular job waiting it out and you got 20%. But if you didn't need the money, then how does it hurt for it to just continue writing? And, you know, you can see exponential growth there over time. And so I had something like this, which was like my Hidden Fates Elite Trainer box, which I got, I think in 2020 during one of the last runs. These are like, well, actually no, the individual ones are older. I have a case, that one I got at 2020. But anyway, Elite Trainer box. What is the point that I should sell this? Well, someone who might need the money now, they're currently selling like I think 140, 150 in the market, and so technically you already doubled your money technically. So it's like you paid $50 for this, you're selling it for 150, you're losing maybe 12% in fees. So let's just round down and say 10%. So you're losing $15. So you're at 150 minus 50, you're at 100 minus 15, you're at 85, and then you paid for shipping because, you know, you have to, or maybe your buyer pays for shipping, but let's say you do, and so you pay another, say $15, like middle of the road, depending on what kind of shipping you use. And so what, we were at 85, now we're at 80, $70 profit, which means you made a free Elite Trainer box plus 20 bucks. And it's like, oh, hey, you made that much money. You doubled this. You didn't even have to do anything. You got a free 70 bucks. That's kind of nice if you just waited like 2 years. And what is that, a 100% return in a matter of 2 years? That's like crazy. You don't even get that from stocks. You get that from like gambling, but you don't get it anywhere else but I guess with Pokemon. But the thing is, if you needed the money, maybe that 70 bucks matters. Maybe getting back the $50 you put into the item to begin with, plus the extra $70, is what finishes up paying the rent, what finishes up paying the car, what pays for groceries that week. We're in a time where if people needed funds, it doesn't really matter what the profit margin is, because you have costs that matter more than the actual box itself. But if you're someone who can hold on to it, if you're someone who can be like, hey, you know, I invested in this, I'm going to be able to carry this long term, then cool beans, just like that EX Dragon, what is it, Dragon Frontiers box that was $2,000 in what, 2011, 2012, whenever I looked it up in high school. And now it's like $400 a pack. Literally, like, what, 5 packs of the 36 pay for the entire box at the point in time in what, 2011? That's insane, which means that like technically your other 31 packs that you have on hand will pay for what, shipping, fees, taxes that you go and put into it, but the rest of it is solely profit. So things like that are other things I started to consider moving forward. And I told my teacher at the time, like, hey, you know, I've seen all these things, I've forecasted all these numbers, and I know that it could go really well. And because it's school, and because this teacher tolerated my level of detail at the time, she told me to put it all, well, not all, but pick, like, she said, like, pick 16 inventory items. Because, I mean, look behind me. We have Hidden Fates Ultra Premium Ultra Ball Collection, we have Detective Pikachu Mewtwo GX File, we have Kangaskhan GX Box, we have Lucario GX Box, we have Champion's Path Pin Box, and we have both kinds. So, well, I guess we have both set releases of it, so we have a total of 6 different ones. And so that's already like, we have like 11 inventory items there. Celebrations Elite Trainer Box. Fusion Strike Pokemon Center Elite Trainer Box. You know, so on, so on, so on. And like, it just in this. And so that was already unmanageable as far as an assignment went, but I wanted to give it as much as I could because at this point, it's like 2021 and I'm excited. Like, at my core, maybe down the line, I want to be an accountant and I love my internship at this time. And so it's like, I'm going to be an accountant for at least like maybe 20 years even. Like, maybe I sink in a good portion of my life into this. But maybe if things go really well and I'm able to keep collecting and not leverage this stuff at this specific point in time, because I was already leveraged for the past 2 years and I was paying off debt, and I was like, geez, it doesn't really matter if I got these Sword and Shield packs for $2 a piece, because, you know, there's a specific time when Sword and Shield and Darkness Ablaze came in this dual pack and it was really only being sold for like $4 a piece, and I was like, what? But the point is, I knew that it could be something. And then not only could it be something, but if I'm planning this, say, 20 years down the line, a lot of this stuff is going to be vintage. A lot of this stuff might be super special to someone in the future because they also grew up with the same thing. And again, this is taking into account a mountain of risk. Like, what if Pokemon is irrelevant by that time? What if a fire happens? What if it gets stolen? What if? Many what ifs. But the point remained in my brain that possibly down the line this could be a thing. And if it could be, then I wanted to make sure that I could maintain it, and then I wanted to make sure that I could offer something in the future for as relatively reasonable prices as I could, because it will not have cost me as much then as it did, I guess now. I might have said that confusingly, but it will make me feel less bad if, say, Guardians Rising, say, reaches $35, right? It will make me feel less bad, not to necessarily undercut the market, because I wouldn't also want to undercut myself, but it would be easier to say, you know what, you buy 4 of these, I sell them at a special price, you know? And it won't hurt me, because honestly, even if I sold them for, say, $25 in the future, I still bought them for $3. And so yeah, maybe I'm paying higher taxes, but you know what? I'm still making a profit on things that make people happy, on things that have made me happy, on things that I have built my entire hobby around and like met so many people with, because I know when I look at, say, that Champions Path Ultra Ball collection, I know in my mind I was with my best friend that day at Target and we were having a good day and we got these boxes and I went crazy, and I also bought all the pink collections there. I know if I look at those Sword and Shield Charizard boxes most recently that I just wanted them, and I bought like 3 of them via my distributor people. My mom got me an opened one, which I have here, and I used the little box thingies to hold my PSA cards. But I have them. I know that Dragon Majesty was the way that I ended up making the ties to the sub-distributor that I use right now. Because if I didn't buy 2 cases that day, I would not have met the threshold, apparently, to become a part of the program that they were running. And so it's all of these considerations that, you know, I have to keep in mind and think, all of this made what I do now possible. And it's cool. But anyway, back to school, because I'm tangenting so much. The point is, now I'm in BA427, which is like business strategy and policy, where we're also playing a game where we're faking a shoe store and all this stuff. And apparently I know a lot of this stuff, I just didn't employ it, which my teacher was like, you know, use your knowledge. I will use my knowledge. But anyway, the business that I'm gonna be fake making, because I'm making an actual business plan now. I'm putting together everything I've learned up to this point into what I've now funneled down to the name because a friend helped me make the name. But Southern Oregon Card Emporium. And right now I'm saying that for the first time in a place where anyone can hear. And it might be real someday. And I get to look back on this video and then be like, oh my god, that day, January 31st of 2023. That was the first time it really became a name. That would be cool. But it's basically going to be, or the way that I'm shaping it to be, and I am open to criticism because also it's something that people can help with. It's something that people can give me ideas for and then be like, you know what, this worked for me, this didn't work for me. If you're really invested and you've made it to minute 35 something, then let me know. But my idea so far is like Southern Oregon Card Emporium, that's the name of the business. Description of the business concept is basically a trading card game store with focus leaning into Pokemon trading card game, both in the current play sets and collectible vintage sets, which these will be by the time that I'm planning to make it. But this store will share in video game console components as well. It will be the only store within the valley to actually promote the Pokemon VGC tournaments, which will hopefully bring a different type of customer in as well. I'd hope that we could also hold like competitions at the local Medford Comic Con when the time came, and so it wouldn't just be like a trading card game league tournament, but also one of those, and so players would be able to come from all over, and even the ones at the technical competing store, Astral Games, would be able to like come compete against us. And that's something that I would want, like to integrate businesses to the point of competition and like the friendliness of it, the same way that you would cheer for like the Beavers and the Ducks and be like, yeah, Civil War and stuff like that. But the point is that there is unity in that, and it's beautiful, and it's something that will encourage players to go to both stores to explore and then just grow as a whole. And then you're not only going to have the opportunity of getting like the league challenge points in just Klamath and Medford at the Astral Game Store, but you'd be able to also get it at Southern Oregon Card Emporium. So that's another thing. And how it ties to my skill set, I was a little cheesy with it. I actually decided to be like, well, you know what? I've been the newcomer, I've been the collector, I've been the player, I've been the organizer, I've been the judge, I've been the spectator, I've been everything within this like range of experiences that Pokemon has made available, except for VGC, and that's where I'm gonna have to put in the work. I'm gonna have to put in the time into getting to know the VGC, getting to know the community within the VGC, and exploring what makes them happy. What's important to them? What is it that I should treasure for them so that they could feel welcome at my store, you know? Things like that. But the thing is that through all this time, you know, I've also worked Wendy's, I've worked Big Lots, I've worked now as an accountant, and I'm doing the things, but it's given me a range of experiences, and I've been a judge. I've lived through all these ranges of roles where I've met people, where I've worked with them, I've worked over them, I've worked under them, learning things about them and how people above me would work, how I should approach these issues when it's someone in whatever range of position that they might be. But it's recognizing what is important to them, what matters, what makes a difference. Because if you go to a child, it doesn't really matter how much of the rulings you really tell them and how to correct their gaming, because maybe that feels judgmental to them. It feels bad. And so the best thing that you can do as a Pokemon player would then be to be like, okay, what makes you happy? I really just like maybe for them, I just really like sharing my deck. And I just really want to play with people. They want to be involved. Cool. You know what? Let's get you involved. Hey, but like, you know, you get to know other people in the league, and at this point you start making these connections within each other that then it's like, it's not a job to ask so-and-so to come play with this kid. It's like an honor. It's recognizing, hey, bud, I know you're really amazing at this game. He wants to learn, and he wants to share his deck. And the thing is that when you breed this healthy communication and this happiness within a league, everyone is happy to do so. Everyone's like, yeah, let's go, come on. And then it's like that friendly competition, the friendly banter. I live for that stuff. It's what makes me happy. It's what drives me to go to work every morning, because at work I get to be that happy-go-lucky person that gets to work with others and then be like, hey, you did an amazing job here. We couldn't have closed this entire store without you. You've done your part. Heck, you even solved problems I didn't even recognize. And the fact is, maybe I did. But it doesn't hurt to give someone else the credit. It doesn't hurt to make them feel like they made this huge thing happen. Because when people feel appreciated, then they want to go that extra mile. They want to learn that extra thing that can help you in the future. And it's, again, not a thing that you do necessarily to get stuff, but because the world overall is better when everyone feels like they can do more. And then you can do more. Because now it's like people are looking to you, and it's like, hey, you make this entire thing possible. Then you know what? Let me make it better. Let me learn more. So, anyway, I'm going to be exploring this business plan, and I'll start, well, this week specifically, actually, getting together this first portion where I need to write, like what does my personal skill set do? What is the desire and the need of this business in this area? The concept of it, heck, the NAICS codes, which, by the way, NAICS code for hobby toy game retailers, if anyone needs it and anyone finds it this far, as of January 31st, 2023, NAICS code for hobby toy and game retailers is 459120. For used rare collector items is 459510. Really cool. Just found out. Well, I found out last week, but it's really cool. Anyway, but we'll come back to this another day. I hope you guys have a super duper awesome possum day and kick butt today. Have fun. Be safe.